deal with a narcissistic parent. Let's run through quickly about some of the traits of narcissistic parents. They are past masters and mistresses at emotional manipulation. They've been doing it all of your life, so they know exactly what they're doing to you. They lack empathy, of course, until it suits them and gets them the thing that they want. Doesn't really matter about other people. They have conditional love. Oh, well done. You did that really well. Yes, you are my favourite child now. Oh, well, that's not very good. No, you're no longer my favourite child. Confusing for small children, let alone adult children. They have potentially an enmeshment with their child. They won't want to let them go. They'll do everything to hang on to them because potentially in their old age, they don't want to look after themselves and they want a child around to look after them. And they have a concept called parentification, where they almost subcontract parental roles, especially when the children are young, out to the children. Many's the time I've heard people talking about, at the age of 6, 7, they'd be the one picking up the shopping on the way home from school because their parent couldn't be bothered to do such things. And when they get in from school, they'd neglect their schoolwork because they had to tidy the house and, look after a younger sibling quite often. They have a grandiosity to them, and when it suits them, they will use your achievements as a reflection about them. Of course they got an A in all of their exams, but that's only down to me because they're my child. Of course they passed that test, their driving test, or they got into a good university, again because that's down to me. Their job, that's down to me. They like the reflected glory of what you do. They can be quite neglectful from a young age to an older age even. Emotionally neglectful, physically neglectful, financially neglectful as well, especially when you're young. They just won't put the hours in to be able to provide. And they can be quite indifferent as well. And children will, and adults will often describe how they didn't know, like when Dad was coming through the door at the end of a work day, they didn't know what to expect. The keys in the lock, and the anxiety would just go sky high because they didn't know what type of dad was coming in. Was it going to be the dad that was interested in them, wanted to know everything about them? Or was it going to be dad that was completely indifferent and, just don't come near me, I'm just not interested? Or angry dad, or over the top dad. They just didn't know, and people's anxiety about their parental relationships just goes sky high. They're also really good at violating boundaries. Now, I often say one of the ways of dealing with any narcissist, whether it's a parent, a friend, a partner, whatever, is to make sure that you have your boundaries. And parents are real past champions at violating your boundaries. Say, for instance, you may say to somebody, okay, can we meet at 6 o'clock? And then you get a call saying, oh, I'm running a bit late. Can we make it 6:30? Well, no, actually, I've got tickets for the show, or, booked a restaurant at this time. Could you call them? Could you just let them know? There was one really well-known narcissist, who I'm not going to name, who was receiving a award from the late Queen Elizabeth II, who apparently had their people phone up the palace to say, so-and-so is going to be late. Could we move the ceremony? As you probably gathered, they were given fairly short shrift. And as you can imagine, they actually turned up on time to receive their award. So, yeah, boundary violations, that's what they're really, really good at. And of course, they are very good and they are well versed in emotional manipulation. You've been in their life for a very long time. They've been in your life all of your life, so they know which buttons to push. So, yes, they are. So, how do you deal with a narcissistic parent? Now, we talked about boundaries. You have to set really firm boundaries with them, and they are not to be violated. And yes, you will get situations where they'll tell you it's a life or death situation and you have to respond to them. And after the third, fourth, fifth time that's happened, maybe you're understanding that this is kind of crying wolf. So just you have your boundaries. I often say to people, a really good tip when it comes to parents as older people is, instead of when the parent asks you to do something, is you say, I'll have to just ask. And you may say, your partner or a friend or a flatmate or something. You put kind of somebody as a barrier if you like, between you and the parent that's making the demands of you. And often the parent will go, oh God, that's really frustrating. Do you have to, are you kowtowing to that person, exactly the thing that they want you to do to them? But they don't like it. And if you bring that third party in, that can be a useful tip. So just remember that. Have others in your life that you can talk to. Not, some people talk about they just don't want to be that friend that endlessly talks about, how violated and how disappointed they feel because of what's gone on in their life. But do have other people in your life that you can talk to. If you feel that you can't, just look online. Look, there's lots of, Facebook groups and chat rooms that you can just see what other people do. There's lots of YouTube videos. So get commenting below and be supportive of one another, because that can be really useful as well. Knowing that you're not alone. You're not almost the freak that the parent has made you feel. And if you need to, limit your contact with your parents, because that kind of is the ultimate thing, but it also is the ultimate thing that then makes, it doesn't change the parent, but it makes your life better. And that's what we're really after here. So those are a few quick tips and a little bit of a précis of what it's like to have a narcissistic parent and how you can deal with them. I'm Dr. Jane, I'm a psychologist. This is Knowing Narcissism, because the more you know, the better it is for you. Knowledge is power, as I always like to say. Subscribe and like, and it will do the channel no end of good. And feel free to comment, as I said, and I'll see you next time, and please keep safe.